No niin, tervetuloa kanavalle ja tervetuloa taas Kanadaan. Tää on maatalousmuseo, missä me ollaan, tai itse asiassa oikeastaan yhden perheen alueen panema maatila. Ja mulla on matkassa tässä Ian, joka tulee varmaan kertoa suurimman osan tämän paikan historiasta ja noin muutenkin tämän päivän tilanteesta ja tämmöisestä, että pannaan puheenvuoro hänelle ja tää tulee sitten tapahtuu englanniksi, että jatketaan tästä. Niin okay, it's turn.
Oh, thank you. So welcome to Western Canada and to the home of James and Catherine Bauer, who moved here in 1899. Western Canada was settled by European settlers. Well, obviously the indigenous people first, but then many of the Western settlers came in from Ontario, from Eastern Canada, and from the United States. James and Catherine moved here from Orangeville, Ontario, looking for new opportunities out west, and in 1899 James Bauer came out here and built his first homestead, his home on this land, and then Catherine came with her, and they had 9 children that were raised here on the farm, and grew up and moved to different places in central Alberta. So you see the Bauer name all through Red Deer, from the children who grew up and had children and donated their land. Very generous family. And the youngest son, Norman, was the one that farmed here until the year 2000. But in 1988, he decided to donate this museum to the people of Red Deer to tell the story of the farm community. So that we exist to teach about rural agriculture and farming before electricity. So our focus is on from 1880 to 1950 when electricity came to Canada. That's when our story kind of stops. So you see lots of tractors and gasoline engines and handheld devices and things, washing socks and things with the old washboards, and everything was manual back then, and it was a lot of work. And then electricity came and made our lives easier. So
Okay.
so that's we're trying to tell the story of early agriculture. And so these all of these barns and buildings here were built by the Bauer family. And in 1988 we established the museum, and we get about 13,000 visitors that come here every year to come and see the farm.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, little children that come and learn about pioneer life and education, and day camps and events and that sort of thing. We have some baby animals here. There's they've all gone home for the winter. They're on loan from local farms, but they come and spend the summer with us. So kids get to see chickens and pigs and
That's
goats
nice.
and things during the summer. And
Do we start
yeah,
somewhere?
and we can walk a little bit more. So as you sort of walk around the museum grounds, we have 80 volunteers that donate about 10,000 hours a year. I'm the only full-time staff member, and so all these volunteers have gone all through central Alberta and sought out donations of different implements, farm implements and wagons and tractors and things that have been given to us that tell this story of early farming, and horse-drawn plows, and you can see the walking plows and the 3 bottom plows, and little garden cultivators that would have been used for the small garden out back.
Yeah.
And some wagons, like the gasoline wagon. So the first tractors on the farm had to have horses.
What is a
bring the
gasoline? What is
to
a
the
gasoline
tractors.
wagon?
So that's the green one there,
Okay.
Premier gasoline, and so you would have used horses to bring the gasoline to the farm so that you could power your tractor. Because they didn't have automobiles, they necessarily. So
Okay.
had,
That probably is something that interests my audience.
yes, they're very interesting. Gasoline.
Premier gasoline. Imperial.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
would have used horses to bring that gasoline to the farm. And so we've got some covered wagons. So this covered wagon would have brought settlers from the United States to Canada. When they came from east to west, from Europe and from Eastern Canada, they would have gone by train later on. So and there was a big push here from lots of Ukrainian settlers in central Alberta.
Yeah, that I know.
Ukraine, yes. because there was a push for.
But didn't they came like later on?
The 20s, 30s, 40s. Yeah,
Okay.
Lots of families that have been here a long time. I think from the potato famines and different issues. So the threshing machines. This is our animal exhibit. So we have horses and cattle and donkeys, and the chickens are still here. They're going home in the next couple of days, and the little rabbits are here
Okay.
still.
So you guys
Coming
don't
home
have to
tonight.
buy any eggs.
No, that's right. We can have the eggs here.
Okay.
And so, this is his combine shed. So Norman built this, and that's where he would store his combines in the winter, so they don't get rained or snowed on, protect them over time.
How about if we go
Sure.
see those two?
Some haystackers.
Might be a bit long video, but
Sure.
I don't think it mind. Nobody minds. This is far enough from home that everything is interesting.
Although our climates are probably pretty similar. I don't know where you are on the meridian in terms of central Alberta, but
well,
we have the cold winters too, and the
by that
short summers.
by that we're really up north.
Yeah, you're
like in the ice sea
right.
level, but there's a how should I say, the Gulf Stream
Yeah.
that heats the Europe,
Right.
and that'll keep the
Gives you a little bit more.
area kind of sort of similar than what it's here.
Yeah, so certainly Central Alberta was big with grain. So another reason why Ukraine was, we had a lot of immigrants from Ukraine is because they're grain farmers.
Yeah, that's a grain area too.
So so this was his pig barn on the right, and then we brought in some log houses from west of us to tell the story of really early settlers. So
Okay.
and we loved. So this was an Icelandic family that built this log house with the dovetailed joints on the log house, and then the little pioneer cabin beside it, the tiny one, was a woodcutter from Quebec. So you can see the saddle joints when we get there, and there's just a slight design difference between the two buildings. But those would have been the very first homes that people would have built when they came to Canada. When they moved here, they did something called homesteading. So you had to prove the land. So you were given a quarter section of land. You registered it with the Saskatchewan Land Company at the time, because Alberta didn't exist. And you would have had.
Then you had to build something
you had
there
about
that
10 years to build a house and clear the land and plant your first crops. But certainly one of the conditions was you had to have a house. And so
Of course.
two brothers, Thoril and Amund, built their house right on the property line. So the log house was on one property, and the summer kitchen was right on the other property.
Okay.
So they met the requirement for having a house on their land.
Okay.
But it was a shared home.
Okay.
So that's how they kind of got away with that.
Can we go inside that?
Sure, of course. I'll have to unlock it over here.
Okay. Okay, a house with a history. I'm gonna stop this video for a while so you all can read what is in that sign, and then we're gonna continue the tour inside the house. But yeah. Okay.
So this home was purchased by the Hanna family. That's why we call it the Hanna log house.
Okay.
They lived in it up until 1974, and there's some of their history of the family here. They lived up in this house up until 1974 with 5 kids, 2 adults. So it's
5 kids in this house.
yes, yeah.
Must have been crowded.
It was a little crowded.
I can imagine.
And you can go upstairs. It's a creaky little bedrooms upstairs.
And this is what?
That's the summer kitchen. So they would have closed that off in the winter, so they didn't have to heat it. And then in the summertime, they do their canning and they have their dinners and things like that in there.
Okay, how about if I go video this summer kitchen first and then we go upstairs?
Sure. So this is just a reconstruction, and we use this as an event space. So we have dinners in here, ham dinners, turkey suppers,
Okay.
that sort of thing. So we'll seat about 50 people inside the building, and they have the old wood stove going, and they
That's
bake their
beautiful.
pies and
That is really beautiful. Back home in my videos, I always check who's been made that video.
Right.
The
enterprise
stove and
stoves. Yeah.
so
And the ladies love it. It's just so authentic when you come in here for a dinner and the wood stove is going and the tea is warming on the
All
stove,
right.
and the smell of the wood smoke. And that's a picture of the original farm from 1959.
okay, then I have to get into the video.
So most of these buildings are still here, of course. The blacksmith shop, the dairy barn, the steel barn where the pigs were, and the wooden house at the north end that was built in 1942. Yeah.
Surprisingly, this is not hot inside
No, it's quite cool in here, yes.
compared to it's like
Outside.
30 degrees outside. Oops.
Oh, watch your head.
It's the hardest place. So no worries.
We need to work on our peeling wallpaper, but yeah, just
Okay.
a log house. Use every inch.
This is just beautiful. Now that I have to blur. I have been, how should I say, habit to film myself in the mirrors.
Oh, yes.
So yeah.
Just go out this way.
Okay, I have to get that stove into the video too. That's, quite beautiful. Yeah.
Kitchen.
Oops. So, is it so that all of this, the things in here have been like donated to the
Everything
museum?
was donated, yes.
For the museum.
Yeah, that's an old ice box. They would have put the ice on the top. And
That one.
you have your refrigerated goods in the bottom.
Okay. Gain superior pure lard. Okay. I don't know how appealing that would be these days. Okay. So yeah.
So that pretty much tells the story of the original farm, and then for the past 20 years we've been building new buildings at the south end, which we won't go into today, but they're trying to tell the story of the farm community. So what it would have been like in rural Alberta, growing up, in some of the community spaces that would have been there, the garage, the co-op store, the schoolhouse, the one-room school, and the church. The church was just brought in 2 years ago and just opened 2 months ago.
Okay.
So I can take you in there if you want to see.
Yeah, and I could, film the tractors too.
Yes, of course, and the tractor
I
shed
might-
itself. We have 36 tractors in the collection. They all run. and we have a big Pioneer Days festival that just took place 2 weeks ago, where we parade them around, and we do a tractor pull, it's called, where they pull a sled.
Okay. And how about this one?
Sorry? Oh, these are just sawmills and different.
Yeah, but
the truck itself, 1947, I think, Chevrolet. It was donated a few years ago to the museum. We've taken in parades and.
Okay, because this is quite cool. Oh yeah.
We've collected so much stuff over the years, and some of it just gets, once it reaches a certain level of rusting, it doesn't rust anymore, so we just leave it outside. But some of it we work on restoring it and repaint them.
Okay, so you do all that yourself?
Yes, yeah, all the volunteers do all that work.
Okay.
Many of our volunteers are retired farmers, so they come into the city and to retire from the farm, and they want to keep active with their activities.
Have something to do, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The sawmill.
Okay. This is kind of sort of familiar for me.
Yeah.
I have been on the both ends of that
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, we don't run it anymore. It takes a certain expertise. They have to have the right blade that's hammered the proper way. If they're not run by people that are experts in the field, they will blow up and hurt people. So we haven't run that in many years.
Yeah. I know that too. You have to know how to hammer the blade.
Right. Yep. It has to have a certain curve to it, apparently.
Exactly.
And I think there's only 2 people in Alberta that still do it. So, and it costs
That's
quite
crazy.
a bit of money.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So like I say, there's 36 tractors in the collection. We try and represent all different eras and technologies as they advanced.
Yeah.
Fordson Major, the Massey Harris.
That's Fordson back there, and this Massey Harris. If I have understood right, it's a Canadian brand.
Yes, and that's a 4-wheel drive. That was one of the first 4-wheel drive tractors ever introduced in Canada. So, really unique tractor. And one of the neat things about it is you'll see a bunch of levers instead of gear shifts necessarily. So you could actually run it just like a horse. So you could sit on the plow behind the tractor and operate the tractor from the seat of the plow.
Okay. Okay.
Like this was your horse. And so
Okay.
that made it kind of unique.
Okay. This is the brand where later on came Massey Ferguson.
Massey Ferguson.
Yeah.
Massey Harris, Massey Ferguson.
Is there? Do you know if there is any production in Canada anymore?
No, I don't think so. I'm not an expert, but most of them are American or Japanese, European. Yeah.
I think they built in Europe those in France these days. Not even in England. Oliver, Cockshot.
The Rumley oil pull. So Rumleys were manufactured in Edmonton.
Pardon?
They had a huge Rumley factory in Edmonton that manufactured those.
Like this Rumley.
Yeah, and this is a Lance Bulldog, so a German tractor. It didn't have a spark plug. It ran from a blowtorch.
Yeah, I know. I know how it works. It's like a shotgun shell
Yes.
that you use.
Yeah.
But that Rumley is interesting.
Yeah,
What year? Like 1990?
1919, yeah, was the manufacturer. That's the oldest tractor in our collection, aside from the steam engine at the south end. And it could run with oil, with kerosene, with gasoline, with all sorts of different, just about anything flammable would make this run.
Okay. It's gonna be an hour and a half video if I'm gonna be stuck every tractor I'm interested by myself.
Some of them have been restored, some of them just donated the way they were.
Okay.
But they all run.
What is that one in the back?
Red Deerin.
Okay. International cockshot. What's the story of the cockshot?
So Cockshot was a Canadian manufacturer, so we have quite a few Cockshot tractors here. We tried to have the whole collection, but they were bought out by White, I think, in the 60s. Like I say, I don't have all of the research on that. You'd have to actually talk to Robin, one of the other volunteers.
Okay.
He's a Cockshot collector. So,
Okay.
and one of these was donated by him, but yeah, definitely a Canadian company.
Okay. Because I have always thought that it's a American brand, but it seems it's not. Oh, this is interesting. I could use hours in here.
Produced at War's End in Brantford, Ontario. There you go.
Okay. There you go. It's on the video.
Yeah, the signs don't match up with the tractors because the guys keep moving the tractors around.
Okay. That is the John Deere.
Your propane.
I was
40/20.
just about to ask that what is that lump on the hood?
Yeah, that's one of the first John Deere propanes that came to Alberta, so we accepted that one this year.
Okay.
It's a utility tractor, very powerful.
Yeah,
Loader on it, so we love that.
the big one. I guess biggest in all of these.
So we are open primarily during the summer. We have the grounds are open in the winter, but the buildings aren't open. We hire summer students to run all of our summer programs, so they go back to university, and things quiet down in the winter. But we have volunteers that do restoration and conservation work. And, yeah, you can see the new community buildings at the south end that tell that story of the farm community.
Are those open already? So that we can go inside those.
I can open them up for you. They're closed now
Okay.
for the season. But
Well, anyways, there's still some tractors to see.
yeah, sure. So during the Great Depression and the dry years, they developed certain plows that were minimal cultivation plows in Western Canada, because the more they dug up the soil, the more it blew away, because it was so dry. So you'll see different kind of versions of the plows over on the west side. They had something called a noble blade that would just slice the roots off just near the surface and then leave the soil as pristine as possible, so you wouldn't have as much erosion, as much
Yeah, I understand that.
away.
I thought that it never reached this far.
Yes, no, it was very bad.
Okay.
Lots of issues. And then we have a sleigh that we built for the winter, so we have sleigh rides for
All
the
right.
children when the snow comes. And the original bricks, so when James and Catherine moved here, they had a brick house that they tore down later on, and so we still have all the original bricks that we're using for an entrance gate that's going to be built in the next year.
Okay. So those are the bricks.
And this is the tractor pull sled, so this is the point is they put their antique tractor on the front, and as the sled goes up the track straight forward, that weight box moves up to the top of the track, or on its track, and gets heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
And so the tractor that makes it to the end wins a ribbon, and they're all very excited and competitive about that.
I can imagine. Actually, I am familiar about this, but
Yes.
probably people that are watching my video might not.
Yeah.
So,
That's how they have some fun at Pioneer Days.
yeah.
And then the steam engine here at the entrance gate was donated. It's on loan from the Reynolds Alberta Museum in Wetaskiwin.
Mhm. I have actually have idea to go there too.
Yeah, it's a lovely place.
So I have heard.
And this road grader, so they built, and on the farm roads were all built by the local farmers, and so this grader was pulled by 18 horse. So it was quite a...
I have to raise my hat for the guy who was running that thing.
They had one guy that was adjusting the blade and one guy at the back adjusting the height, and the teamsters at the front running all of that. So amazing. piece of iron.
It is. And that's your steam tractor.
That's our steam engine. Oh, so thank you for visiting, and sure appreciate people's interest in this place. And it's, like I say, it was donated to the people of Red Deer on the condition that an agricultural museum be established. So it will always be a museum, and we can't these are just tractors that were used at the tractor pull event.
Okay.
Last weekend, and they spend the winter here. They belong to personal volunteers, so
Okay.
not in the collection.
Okay. All right. How about these buildings?
Yeah, so we can go inside if you want.
Okay.
Open them up. The co-op store and the garage were built just to sort of represent what would have been in a rural community. The other two buildings, the church and the school, were actually existing buildings that we brought here, so we saved them from demolition.
Okay.
The schoolhouse was, the church was 1950 it was built. The church community there was established in the 1900s, and then they outgrew their church building, so we brought this in and restored it to its original condition, so it's all done up inside. You can see some of the artifacts on display from the original church.
So do you have like services or something in here?
No, this is an exhibition building, so it's meant to tell the story of the rural church and how important it was for the settlers that first moved here, for their communities to celebrate weddings and baptisms and funerals, recognize people that gave to their community, and they were the number one gathering place for people. So, and the stained glass windows were original to the church. So.
And this is restored.
Yeah, completely gutted and re-insulated, and it's nice and cool in here. You can feel.
Yeah, I can feel
good
it's
insulation. And the basement is used to be their tea room, but we've converted it to artifact storage. So
Okay.
we don't have that open in the public anymore.
This is quite beautiful. Beautifully restored and a beautiful building, actually. Okay. And more tractors.
Yes, everywhere we can put something under cover so it doesn't get rained on or too much sun.
Yeah,
Sun and rain, the enemy of preservation.
it sure is. But you know, I can imagine my audience would like to even more tractors.
Yeah, I bet. So this is our garage building. So this was so typical of a museum. So we had a 1911 McLaughlin Buick, which was manufactured in Canada, donated. And
Okay.
we didn't have any place to store it. Had to build a garage to store the McLaughlin Buick in.
So I have to admit that now this gets really interesting.
So this car was owned by the McIntosh family in Red Deer, and in 1911 Sir John A. Macdonald came to Red Deer to talk. He was the Canadian Prime Minister at the time, came to do a speech about reciprocity, which was selling grain, free trade with the United States. And so
Okay.
the Prime Minister of Canada gave a speech, and this was the car. But it wasn't a fancy car at the time. He used to use it for hunting deer. So when it came to the museum, it still had a shotgun and shotgun shells under the back seat.
Okay.
He stored it in his basement. He had a little ramp built that he could drive it out of his basement into the backyard and out into the street. And so the two other vehicles are 1927 Model TT truck. The 1927 Chevrolet car were donated to the museum. Once we built a garage, then people came forward with other donations, and then the Hudson came just 2 years ago. It was donated to the museum. So beautiful old automobiles.
Yes, they are. Were these already restored when they came, or?
Yes, all of these were restored.
Okay.
Still some work to do in here for labeling and describing some of the things.
This Hudson is. What year this is?
I'm not certain actually. Just came in last year, so.
Okay.
From
Looks
the 60s,
like.
I believe.
I don't think so. I think this is a whole lot older. Can be 50s or even late 40s.
Yeah, could be. I don't think it's that old, but your viewers will probably know more than us.
Probably know more, a whole lot more than me.
Yeah, someone will post.
Oh yeah. Okay. Valve seat grinder. And this isn't from yesterday either. Beautiful machinery. Okay, and the next is general store. I know well, more tractors. McCormick Deering and John Deere, and what's the last up there?
That's in Minneapolis. Wolverine.
Okay. An old combine.
Weird.
Okay.
So the cooperative mercantile store tells the story of the co-op movement. So the cooperatives were formed when farmers in the region felt that they weren't getting the kind of equipment and materials they needed, so they formed a co-op. So they all came together and were co-owners in these different functions. So the UFA, the United Farmers of Alberta, the Red Deer Co-op, the Grain Growers Association, all of that was cooperative, and the credit unions, the banks, were all pieces of that. So we had a bunch of donations from the co-ops that we could tell this story of farmers coming together to bring in what they needed.
So actually, the idea was that they sell everything, not just farming stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the reason why this is an important story for us to tell is James Bauer was the first president of the United Farmers of Alberta Cooperative Movement. So the fellow that founded this farm was instrumental in forming first the UFA political party in Alberta, and then the business, which is the UFA. So he was a big piece of that, and so it's kind of our story as well.
All right. Tools and wrenches. And the manager's place. Yeah. So they had like everything, farm store, banks, everything.
Yeah, usually the bank was at the back of the co-op, so they would all be in the same building. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
they would sell implements right out of the co-op, local co-op.
Okay. So, have we seen all now?
We can go find the end of the school itself.
Pardon?
I don't know if you did any pictures of the one-room school next door, but that's,
No, I didn't.
yeah, we can do that. And that's the final building on the site.
Okay. In what direction?
Nothing. Just
Okay, thank
follow the dirt road.
Okay, so here we are. Hope everybody still follows the video, though it's gotta be in his language. But
So this is called the Yellow Fellow, and again, this is Canadian Cooperative Implements Dealer. So the co-ops brought in a combine. No, we're gonna.
Pardon?
Yeah, it's this way to go.
Okay.
So we just wanted to show the story of they would bring in heavy equipment, sell it through the cooperative because they weren't getting the kind of stuff they needed.
What is this?
And that's a hay stacker, and so the hay would, or the straw and the chaff would go in the back.
Okay.
Big rolling bin, and then dump out all at once into a pile.
So it's diamond, or
Yeah,
is there
was
any
the
other?
motor that drove the?
Is
drove
there
the
any other
silage.
brand than Co-op?
So this was brought. So CCIL was I think this was actually manufactured by a different company and brought in under their name. So
Huh?
yeah. I'm not sure who manufactured it, but
Okay. And a Massey Harris baler.
that's a baler. Yeah. Some different manure spreaders.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we go see that school now. So, okay. Beautiful day. Pretty hot though.
So when Norman donated the land back in 1988, there was 30 acres left, and 10 acres was sold to Horizon Village Corporation to make these seniors' residencies next to us. And in that way, he was able to put enough money together for his kids, and as a kind of a legacy. And then 10 acres was donated to the city to make some more parkland, which is just to the north of us here.
Yeah.
It was also part of his parcel. And then this final 10 acres then became his gift.
Okay, because kind of sort of it was a surprise for me that to find something like this, the place like this,
In the middle of the city.
in the middle of the city.
Yeah, 10 acres of protected land. So this is a teacherage. So this isn't the teacherage that would have been here, but the teacher would have lived in a small house right beside the school back in the turn of the century. And so this is called the booth teacherage, and this is where the teacher, she would have lived. So it's a tiny space.
Yeah.
Would have had a little wood stove and a bed and a little night table, and that's pretty much it. Table and a couple chairs, insulated with newspaper or whatever they could find. Must have been cold at night.
Yeah, well, you don't need a big heater for a house like this.
Little tiny house, yeah.
Okay.
And then you just go up the steps.
So the school class is upstairs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is originally from 1903, was the district. The school was burned down in 1930 and was rebuilt in 1931, and that one burned down under suspicious circumstances, so the kids maybe didn't want to go back to school.
Okay.
And then this building was rebuilt in 1932. And it was larger than a lot of the one-room schools at the time, because they had a high school as well here, so there were high school students that were involved in classes in the basement, but the elementary classes were all upstairs here. And this was completely renovated and restored from what was given to us, and opened in 5 years ago, 2018 is when it was reopened. And it's so it's typical of a one-room school at the time, grades 1 through 5. Would have attended here all together, so the youngest grades to the oldest grades, and the older kids would help the younger kids with their lessons as part of their education. So it was all a communal effort, and they would have had a wood stove and heated the. This particular classroom had a coal furnace in the basement. So, but typical one-room schools would just have a little wood stove that the teacher or the elder students would have to light first before the classes could start to warm the place up.
Okay.
Lots of big windows to let in light because they didn't have electricity until the 1950s. So that would have been a late addition.
About these schoolhouses, was there some sort of general design to build them? Or
No, they were all built by farmers, local farmers, and they were all on donated land in a local area.
So every house was different?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they were just a box, right?
Yeah.
They were very simple buildings with lots of high ceilings because of all the smoke from the wood stove.
Okay.
That would have been a general design. Lots of height in the ceiling, big windows to let in lots of light, and just maintain the space. And kids, they would have been many of them because kids would have had to ride their horse to school. So you can't have long distances. It's like that's why their grain elevators are so close together in Western Canada, because you still have to take horse and buggy to a grain elevator to move your grain. So
okay. Yeah. So have we seen now everything?
You have seen everything.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this was great, and I have to thank by myself and for my viewers. This was opportunity.
Oh, wonderful.
And
if your friends in Finland ever visit, come see Sunnybrook Farm Museum.
I hope they will, because they surely miss something great if they won't.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your
Wonderful
time.
visit.
Thank you. Okay. No niin, ja tällä me nyt sitten lopetetaan tämä video sitten tähän, että tämmönen oli Sunnybrook Farm Museum Albertassa Red Deerin kaupungissa. Ei muuta kuin kaikki vaan tervetuloa tänne, jos olette täällä päin liikkeen. No niin, hei hei!